I think Bitcoin fixes half the problems in the world. So I should interpose right now. Only half. Half the problems are due to defective money and a crippled monetary network. The other half of the problems are due to politics and culture and acts of nature, and force majeure, things that are beyond our control. And so I have no doubt there'll still be unfair rules and unfair cultures and unfair situations and suboptimal things, even if we fix the money. That's why the other half will be there. But I do think that we inflict about twice as much inefficiency on ourselves as we need to by having defective money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're looking for a metaphor, the simple metaphor is one athlete had to give a pint of blood before they ran the race, and the other athlete didn't.
Yeah.
That's
no world I want to live in if I'm the one not receiving.
Yeah, it's just a never-ending drain.
Yeah.
On the energy of the civilization. It's like, how well are you going to run? Or are you going to train for the Olympics in 4 years if I tell you that, I'm seizing your house in 1 year and you're going to jail in 2 years? It's just very difficult to focus, right? So what you have is a lot of chaos that's interfering. What you would do is you would stop and you would hire a lawyer to defend you on the one thing, and then you would go shopping for another place to live that you're not going to lose for the other thing. And the third block of time, if you had time left, you would train for the marathon. So talk about energy, it just brings me back to a basic principle. The whole problem in the civilization is an energy imbalance and an energy inefficiency at the base of our entire economy, and maybe the base of our entire civilization. We're trying to fix it. It's like there's a hole in the civilization, and trillions of dollars of energy are flowing out of that container every year, and we need to plug the hole. I think of it like this. If you think about the basis of the money supply, it's the US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. All the other currencies are linked to it. You've got $100 trillion worth of that stuff floating around. And then you've got other currency derivatives. You've got bonds, massive amounts of bonds, massive amounts of real estate property, and stocks, and you've got companies that are valued based on cash flows. And so let's say we have $500 trillion worth of stuff in the civilization that all is really predicated upon this fundamental unit of account, store of value, medium of exchange, which is the fiat currency. That underlying currency, that's collapsing right now. And we talked about it collapsing 10 to 20% a year, right? And all of those derivatives of the currency are losing value. So you could almost think about the civilization resting on a platform which has got a big hole in it. And the energy of the civilization is draining out that hole. Bitcoin represents a new monetary base. What we have is a digital scarcity. And the idea is 100 years ago, we thought gold should be the basis, and then it became fiat should be the basis. And now if we can create digital scarcity as the basis, or what we might say is a perfect ledger. And if we had a fair, equitable, immutable ledger, or a proper ledger, a ledger that didn't lose 10% or more of its energy a year, but rather it was conservative. In that case, the goal becomes to shift the entire civilization from an imperfect foundation that's losing. It doesn't really matter whether it's 10% or 20% or 7%. All of those numbers, even 2% is too much, right? If the civilization is sitting on a foundation where 2 or 3 or 5 or 20% of the energy is lapsing out the bottom of it every year into the ether, right? then you've got a suboptimal situation. And when the number gets to be 20 or 30%, you approach economic collapse. So that's the problem. The solution is seal the energy lapse. We have to seal the economic system. We've invented a way to do it, this crypto steel or digital energy, which we know is Bitcoin. We've invented a way to do it. You can't do it with a country, right? We've been trying to do it with the political process, right? The British tried to do it with the pound. We try to do it with the dollar, the mark, the peso, the franc, the euro. So we already know what happens when we try to do it politically. We can't do it corporately because nobody trusts the company. We can't use Apple stock as the basis of the civilization. I mean, a company is even less credible than a country. And so we're left looking for a digital asset which is trustworthy with integrity, a material, an economic material that is strong enough to build a civilization on top of without it collapsing. I gave you the model of Venice as the city collapsing, on pilings that keep sinking, right? And our civilization is a bigger problem than Venice. We're collapsing at a faster rate on pilings that are sinking.
Yeah.
The challenge of humanity forever has been, how do I build something that will last on a foundation that won't sag over 100 years? How do I build a civilization over 1,000 years? So we've got this idea, a digital asset that we call Bitcoin. And now the challenge is, how do we move $500 trillion of weight? Because you can measure mass and energy in monetary terms. $1 million will buy you a certain amount of steel. $1 billion will buy you 1,000x more steel, right? So you can measure the mass of the civilization in money. We need to shift our entire civilization to a firmer foundation. We need to move from a swamp to granite. And the only way we're going to do it is if everybody can agree on something that's fair and equitable.
Yeah.
And that means it needs to be open, it needs to be permissionless, and it needs to be incorruptible, indestructible, immortal. And once you understand the idea that we need to move from something which is not working, if you're an American, you might think the dollar works, but if we can be quite sure if we go to the Russians, they're not going to say the dollar works. It's not working for them, right? And if you go to the Chinese, they would disagree. And of course, everybody would disagree that everybody else's foundation works. So if we want to create a civilization that rests on a mathematically sound foundation, you need to create an economic material that will not deflect. And that's really the story of civilization. Is, the Iron Age was an improvement over bronze, and steel was an improvement over iron, and the truss is an improvement over the beam, right? And each, crude oil and oil is an improvement over pedal power or wind power. And so the civilization is a continual quest for a stronger material upon which to build a civilization. And when your life depends on it, things become apolitical. Like if you had a Republican and a Democrat and a communist and a socialist, and they're all standing on the 88th floor of a building that's got steel beams, and you recommended that you replace that with, organic bamboo leaves to be ESG friendly, all the way down, you probably wouldn't get much consensus. You could probably get them to agree that the steel beams and the concrete floors seems a little bit better than organic bamboo leaves.